Advanced financial modeling, capital budgeting, learning objective number 2. We're going to understand the most common measures used to evaluate investment cash flows. And those are NPV, IRR, and payback. So let's talk about those three. Payback is simply, or payback period, is a number of years it takes for a project to pay back its initial cash outlay. So in other words, if you spend $100 and you make $50 a year, it would take 2 years to pay back your amount, your initial investment. Net present value is the present value of all incremental cash flows, and it's a measure of value creation. So it's the present value of all cash flows, and the main advantage over payback period is that it has a discounting effect. In other words, it doesn't treat dollars received 10 years from now exactly as the same as dollars received today. And then the last one is internal rate of return. You can think of it as the average rate of return on the initial cash outlay. Another way of thinking about it, it's also the discount rate that makes the NPV equal to 0. All right, so we're going to calculate the NPV, IRR, and payback of this set of cash flows. What if we spend $100 today and then receive 35, 40, 45, and 50, and those are the total cash flows. So what we're going to do is go ahead and calculate the NPV, IRR, and payback of those cash flows. Going to the spreadsheet, we can first do the payback. Payback, the easiest way to do that is to have a row called the cumulative cash flows. So a cumulative cash flow, if I spend $100 today, is $100 negative. At the end of the first year, my initial was the number to the left, down 100, but then I make 35, which is above. So I'm still 65 in the hole, or in the red after the first year. Copy that across. And what you see is what is the first year in which that number turns positive. And you can see it turns positive in year 3. So you say the payback period is 3 years. No easy way to automate that. Just see when the cumulative cash flows turn positive. NPV, well, I could just take the present value of all these cash flows. I could take 100 over, and we'll assume a discount rate of 12%. So I can take $100 negative plus 35 divided by 1.12 to the 1 plus 40 divided by 1.12 to the second power, and so on. But we'll go ahead and use the NPV function and say NPV, put in a discount rate, comma, put in the future cash flows, which is period 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And then when you're done, add in the current outlay, which is a negative 100. The NPV function Excel assumes that first cash flow was received a year from now. So if you have a period 0 cash flow, you always skip it and add it after the NPV function. So the net present value is $26.94. How you can think about that is I'm spending $100 today and receiving these cash flows in the future. And then you can think of the $26 as your value creation. You can think of it as these must have a present value of $126. Since I'm spending $100 today, I'm creating value. Again, think about that one more time. The present value of these future cash flows must be $126 because the net present value, when I account for the current outlay, is 26. So I must be creating value of $26 by spending 100. The IRR function, 2 ways you can calculate it. One, you can do a goal seek. What discount rate makes this NPV 0? So I do data, what if, goal seek. What discount rate makes the NPV, I'm sorry, we're going to set the NPV to a value of 0 by changing the discount rate, hit OK, and that's 23.5%. I'll hit cancel. So I can just type in 23.5%. Or you can use the IRR function, equals IRR, and put in all the cash flows, not the cumulative ones, and I get 23.5. So you can think about this as I'm getting a 23.5% return per year on my $100 investment. All right, so those are the 3 main metrics. One warning on NPV and IRR on IRR. Normally NPV and IRR give you the same answer as far as do I invest. The criteria for NPV is you invest in any project that has a positive NPV because it creates value given a discount rate. The criteria for accepting a project for IRR is you accept any project that has an IRR greater than some minimal hurdle rate of return that you require. So if I say that my minimum rate of return I require for this project was 12%, and this project had a 23.5% return, the IRR, you say, well, that's a good project. I only needed 12 due to the risk of the project, and it's giving me 23.5. All right. Now, there's a problem with the IRR, however. You have to be very careful. If the IRR cash flows look like this, in other words, this one has negative, negative, positive, negative. If they change signs twice, going from negative to positive back to negative, and change signs again after that, you can't trust the IRR anymore because in theory, there could be two IRRs. There could be two discount rates to equate the NPV to zero. So if cash flows change more than once, you have to throw out the IRR and say, I can't trust it. I have to use NPV. So what question is, which method is best? I will tell you right now, NPV is best. If you talk about projects, what you try to do is create value. NPV tells you exactly how much value you've created. The problem with payback period is that it doesn't use discounted cash flows. It treats cash flows future years the exact same as cash flows today. But it's an important insight. If I see my payback period's 20 years, that might make me nervous. I have to wait a long time till this thing's going to work out, and maybe some of the assumptions I make in future years are going to have a big effect. IRR, again, usually they give you the same answer, meaning if your NPV and IRR criteria give you the same answer to invest or don't invest. The problem with IRR is it's a little unstable. It's not reliable if cash flows change more than once. An advantage of IRR, however, is if the cash flows don't change more than once, it's kind of a recognizable number. We all know that 40% seems to be a good rate of return for kind of a relatively straightforward investment or safe investment. Net present value, what does that $26 represent? Well, I'm not sure. I know it's positive, but I'm not sure what it means. So bottom line, NPV should be the one criteria used to decide to invest in a project. In the next topic, we're going to calculate the NPV, IRR, and payback of the condo investment.